Hi, I'm Tara,
And I'm Aymeric.
and we are here to give you some tips, 5 tips on how to travel on a budget.
Yeah, how to travel cheap, especially like if you're a student like us, you just want to travel on the low.
Yeah. All right, we have 5 different tips, and the first one is flexibility. Flexibility to when, where, and how.
Yeah,
Talk to us
so
about that.
like when you're choosing the dates to leave, like if you're flexible and you're open, like you probably have ideal dates, but if you want to travel for cheap, just drop them. Like give yourself like a 3 to 5 day interval for leaving, a 3 to 5 day interval for arriving, and that you often will save you some money.
Yeah, and that literally could be the difference between like paying an extra $300 for the ticket versus paying $300 less.
Yeah.
Just leaving the day early or coming back a day late or something.
I think when you travel on budget, like to me, every like dollar is like meaningful. So sometimes the difference like $75 or $50, and saving $75 or $50 is the difference between maybe your hotel or something happening and you having the money to deal with the emergency or not. So yeah.
Exactly. Flexibility as to where. A lot of times, we project like, oh, this country I want to go into. I want to go travel next, and that country may be super expensive, And so the best thing is to just be open with where you might want to go. So you might want to look for countries that are more affordable, because you still get to visit a new place, but it may not be the place that you might want to go to right now, but that still works.
Yeah, the main thing with flexibility is putting your budget first. So that means like we like to say we follow the cheap tickets. Like we don't choose the location first. We look at the tickets and see where a ticket is abnormally affordable. And then we go like, if we haven't been there, we're like, okay, I guess we're going there. And so that's the idea. And that leads into the last one is
flexibility as to how.
Yeah. Sometimes that will be like the nicest airport around. Sometimes you're gonna have to have like an awkward layover. Sometimes
there's gonna be like weird hours. You might leave really, really late, or you might leave really, really early. You just got to be open to that.
Weird hours, leaving late, leaving early. Yeah.
It could be inconvenient. Yeah, it's gonna be sometimes it might be inconvenient. But it does save a lot when you're flexible when it comes to how you get there. You might not want to do the direct flight, and that's okay. Also, another thing, like let's just say you want to go to Europe, for example, but you want to go to London. The ticket might be like $700, but there's a flight and from where you're coming from to Paris or to Barcelona for $300. The best thing is to just take that flight, and then there's this app called Omio where they compare flights and trains and blah blah cars and all that for you, and then you get to choose, okay, I'll take the cheapest thing, and then you can even find a flight for like 20 euros to go from Barcelona to London, or train or something, and you just saved that much money right now. For doing that, for taking that option. So yeah.
Or sometimes especially if you live in the United States, like being okay to like drive 2-3 hours to the airport that's going to save you literally $300 or $400. And I'm thinking like literal prices now. I'm thinking about tickets where the airport that's nearby to us is like maybe 30 minutes away, is $300 or $400 more than the airport that's 2.5 hours away. Yeah. So guess what? It's gonna be a 2.5 hour trip when we're trying to travel, because we got to sacrifice a little bit of the convenience of the how for the budget.
For the budget, yes. The second tip is to compare. You want to compare everything. You want to compare flights, accommodation, restaurants, activities, public transportation when you get to where you're going, all of that.
Yeah, so the idea is that you want to gather as much data as possible on the topic of interest so that you're able to have like informed decisions. You really don't know. You don't know what works where. What is more expensive somewhere? Like some places, Airbnbs are like the cheapest thing. In other places, you'll be surprised how cheap hotels can be, and how much better they are in terms of accommodation and safety than Airbnbs. And sometimes it's vice versa.
Even hostels. Some places hostels are like super, super affordable, and then other places hostels can be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. So the idea is you want to gather as much data as possible so you can make informed decisions. I think that leads us right into our next point is travel small or travel light. Once you have like the information, you'll realize that depending on your party size, your price can change dramatically. So for example, renting a car alone might be stupid. But maybe when it's 3 of you guys, it's way better than public transportation in terms of costs. You might save on cost and on flexibility, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so you want to check, sometimes shifting your party size just by one or tweaking it by 1 or 2 will really be a great gain. And then second thing in terms of traveling small is just the size of your luggage.
Yeah, you want to travel light because usually when you're booking with low cost airlines, you know, you're just paying for the seat or you're just paying to be on the plane. And so if you wanted to take like a check bag with you, that would cost, you know, an additional $45, $50. But if you travel light with just a backpack, then you don't have to spend that much. You don't have to spend that money, and you can pack, you know, like 2 weeks worth of travel needs in that backpack. You know,
especially if the adequate type of like suitcase or like bags. There's little tips for that too. You can take a lot with just a little bit of space. So yeah, traveling small, traveling light. I think that'll be a great way to like save some money.
Save money, yeah. So now that we know that we got to be flexible, we have to compare traveling light and small. Now you are empowered to say no.
Yeah. So our fourth tip is we call it just say no. Yeah. So you have the information, you were open, you took like the best decision in terms of party size, in terms of luggage size.
You know your budget.
You know your budget, you know what works best, what's optimal. Then you have to say no. From your house, like while you be in your bed, like preparing for things, all the way to when you'll be on the ground, you'll be bombarded with propositions for you to just spend more money. Hey, you booked this hotel, this place, book this travel, this trip, this tour, book this restaurant thing. You're gonna arrive there, people will be like, hey, take this taxi with me, you know? Or they'll be like, this restaurant, this place, this hotel. You have your information, take this picture with me. You can just say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally just say no. You have to say no.
Even with taxis, like when we get on the ground and, you know, this person's like, hey, I'm the taxi driver, you know, I'll give it to you for like this much. I go around to all the taxi drivers and like, this person is asking me, you know, this is the price that they've given me. What can you do for me? Can you do better? You haggle, okay?
Yeah. So I feel like all the tips.
It depends on the country, obviously.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like all the tips that we said previously, like flexible, you know, party size, compare, it kind of like never stops applying.
Yeah.
But especially, it applies with like the just say no. So yeah, just say no if it doesn't fit. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last one is to think outside of the box.
So yeah, thinking outside the box is like just the way you approach traveling as a whole. Doesn't have to be necessarily the cookie cutter way. So there's a lot of different services, a lot of different apps, a lot of different websites allow you to travel for really, really cheap if you do things just a little bit differently. So can I have a good example? Yeah,
so the first time I traveled, I went to Europe for about 3 months and I did it solo. And I just did couch surfing, which is an app, it's free. You can pay, there is a subscription, but you don't have to. I think I paid, but it was super cheap at the time. Now I think it's a little bit more now. But yeah, so you stay with people for free. You stay in their houses. Sometimes they just have a couch that you can sleep on. Sometimes they have a bed in the living room. Sometimes they have an extra room. I think I've done extra rooms before where I have my own private room. And, you know, for the most part, you're also getting that like local experience where this person lives there. So they know, they'll give you tips on how to navigate their country or their cities a little bit better on, you know, transportation, this, that, and the third, and what the best restaurants, local restaurants that are not, that don't have touristy prices, you know? So yeah, couch surfing is one of them.
Yeah, so that's one way to have literally free accommodation.
Free accommodation. Yeah. And there's also Workaway, which is, you know, let's just say someone has a farm and they just need extra help and you're traveling to their country. You know, they offer you free accommodation, and they offer you food, they feed you. And all you have to do is just help them from, you know, whatever hours they set. And then, you know, that's extra. You know, that's money that you're not spending on accommodation and food. And then, you know, you also have time to like explore the country, the city that you're in. But
yeah, so there's a number of little things like this, like you can like, I think, house sit people's homes.
House sitting, yeah.
Etc. I know, like for example, if you're into RVing and camping, you can sometimes be a camp host, and then you can use their accommodation and facilities for free. And there's a number of different things. You just have to be able to think outside the box, and then do things like that sometimes can be way different than what you're used to thinking, but you'll just save a lot of money and have like a really great experience.
Exactly.
yeah, so be flexible. Compare, gather the data. Tweak your party size, travel small, travel light. Just say no when you have to say no, and then think outside the box. And I think they'll guarantee a great traveling experience.